Leora had heard it so many times that the words had become part of her identity, etched into her sense of self like scars that would never fully heal. 4 kids. That's a lot of baggage. I'm just not ready for an instant family. You're great, but I'm looking for something less complicated. Each rejection had chipped away at her until she had stopped hoping entirely. She was 32 years old, a widow, a mother of 4, and according to every man she had met in the 3 years since her husband's death, she was too much, too complicated, too burdened with responsibilities that no sane man would willingly take on. So she had stopped trying, stopped dating, stopped even entertaining the possibility that someone might want her and the chaos that came with her life. Instead, she focused on what mattered, keeping her children fed, clothed, and safe in a world that was not always kind to a wolf without pack protection. Leora lived on the outskirts of Brier Hill Pack territory in a small cabin that had seen better days. The roof leaked when it rained. The windows rattled in the wind. The heating barely worked. But it was theirs, and she had fought hard to keep it after Marcus died. Her husband had been a good man, a loyal pack member, a devoted father. His death in a border skirmish had left her devastated and alone with 4 young children to raise. The pack had offered sympathy and some financial support, but not much else. She was expected to eventually find another mate, to integrate into another family unit, to stop being a burden on pack resources. But no one wanted a widow with 4 children. The pack had made that abundantly clear through 3 years of awkward setups and painful rejections. So Leora worked 2 jobs, one at the pack's communal bakery before dawn, another cleaning houses in the afternoons, and scraped together enough to keep her family going. It was exhausting. It was lonely. But her children were healthy and happy, and that was all that mattered. Kira, her eldest at 12, had become a second mother to her younger siblings. She was responsible beyond her years, always helping with homework, making sure Torin and Senna got to school on time, watching Finn when Leora had to work late. The weight of adult responsibilities sat heavy on her young shoulders, and it broke Leora's heart. Torin, 9 years old, was quiet and observant. He had his father's serious nature, his tendency to think before speaking. He worried about his mother constantly, asking questions about money and safety that no 9-year-old should have to think about. Senna, at 6, was pure sunshine. She saw magic in everything, made friends with every creature she encountered, and had a laugh that could light up the darkest days. She was the one who still believed everything would be okay, who trusted that the world was fundamentally good. Finn, the baby at 4 years old, barely remembered his father. He was all energy and curiosity, constantly getting into things he shouldn't, asking endless questions, demanding attention that Leora often struggled to give after long days of work. Together, they were a unit, chaotic, imperfect, but fiercely loyal to each other. And Leora would do anything, anything to protect them and give them the life they deserved, even if that meant accepting that she would spend the rest of her life alone. The first time Leora saw Alpha King Alden, she was on her hands and knees scrubbing someone else's floor. She had taken a cleaning job at one of the larger estates on the edge of Brier Hill territory, a property owned by a wealthy merchant family who needed extra help preparing for visitors. The pay was good, and Leora needed every coin she could earn with winter approaching, and Finn outgrowing his shoes again. She had been told that important guests were arriving. Wolves from the Silver Court, the ruling seat of the Northern Territories. But she had not expected the Alpha King himself. Alden walked into the great hall while Leora was scrubbing the stone floor, her hair tied back in a messy knot, her worn dress damp with cleaning water. She heard the footsteps and looked up, intending to move out of the way, and found herself staring at the most striking man she had ever seen. He was tall and powerfully built, with shoulders that spoke of countless hours of training. His hair was the color of summer wheat, pulled back from a face that was all strong lines and sharp angles. But it was his eyes that caught her, pale blue, like winter ice, but somehow warm as they swept the room and landed on her. For a moment, their gazes locked. Leora felt her breath catch, felt something spark in her chest that she had not felt in years. Then reality crashed back in, and she scrambled to her feet, dropping into an awkward bow. "My lord," she stammered. "Forgive me, I did not mean to—" "You have nothing to apologize for," Alden said, his voice deep and calm. "You are working. There is no shame in that." He moved past her toward the group of pack elders who had gathered to greet him, but Leora felt his gaze linger on her for just a moment longer than necessary. She told herself she was imagining things. Alpha Kings did not notice women like her, widowed mothers scrubbing floors to make ends meet. She was invisible to men of power and status, and that was fine. That was safer. She went back to her work, determined to finish quickly and get home to her children. But she could not shake the memory of those ice-blue eyes. The second time Leora saw Alden was 2 days later, and it was not a chance encounter. She was walking home from the bakery in the pre-dawn darkness, exhausted from her shift, when she heard the sound. A child crying, somewhere in the woods off the main path. Every maternal instinct in her body went on high alert. She veered off the path, following the sound, and found a small boy caught in a hunting trap. He could not have been more than 7, and he was terrified, his ankle bleeding where the metal teeth had caught him. "It is okay," Leora said softly, kneeling beside him. "I am going to help you. What is your name?" "To Damien," the boy sobbed. "It hurts." "I know, sweetheart, I know." Leora examined the trap carefully. It was an old one, probably left by hunters years ago and forgotten. She would need leverage to pry it open without hurting the boy further. She looked around for a sturdy branch, something she could use as a lever, and that was when she heard the voices. Adult wolves, searching, calling a name. "Here," Leora shouted. "Over here, I found him." 3 wolves appeared through the trees, and Leora's heart stopped when she recognized one of them. Alpha King Alden. He moved past her immediately, kneeling beside the boy. "Damien, thank the gods, your mother has been frantic." "It hurts," the boy whimpered. "I know." Alden's hands were gentle as he examined the trap. "We are going to get you out. Be brave for me." Leora found a branch and handed it to him. "Here, you can use this as a lever." Alden glanced at her, surprise flickering in his expression, as if he had not expected her to still be there. "Thank you. Hold his hand, keep him calm while I work." Leora took the boy's small hand in hers and spoke softly to him, distracting him with questions about his favorite games and foods, while Alden used the branch to pry the trap open. It took several minutes of careful work, but finally the metal jaws released, and the boy was free. One of the other wolves immediately shifted to wolf form. "I will carry him back. His mother is at the main house." Alden lifted the boy carefully onto the wolf's back, securing him, then turned to Leora. "You found him." "I heard him crying. Anyone would have stopped." "Not anyone." Alden's gaze was intense, studying her in the dim pre-dawn light. "You have children of your own." It was not a question, but Leora nodded anyway. 4. Something shifted in his expression. 4. Yes. She waited for it, for the judgment, for the withdrawal. It always came. But Alden just smiled. "That is a wonderful number, a full house." Leora blinked, certain she had misheard. "Most people think it is too many. Most people are fools." He moved closer, and Leora was suddenly very aware of how much larger he was, how much power he radiated even in this casual moment. "I am Alden, Alpha King of the Silver Court, though I suspect you already know that." "Leora," she managed, "of Brier Hill Pack. The woman scrubbing floors 2 days ago." Heat rushed to her cheeks. "I work where I can find it. I have mouths to feed." "No judgment," Alden said quietly. "Only respect. Supporting 4 children alone takes strength. I am not alone. I have my children. But no mate." Again, not a question. Alden seemed to see through her with unnerving accuracy. My husband died 3 years ago. Leora lifted her chin, defensive despite his gentle tone. And before you say anything, I know that 4 children is a lot for any man to take on. I have heard it enough times. Good thing I'm not any man. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Leora stared at him, trying to understand what he meant, what he was suggesting. I should go, she said finally. My children will be waking soon. Of course. Alden stepped back, giving her space. Thank you for helping Damien. His family will want to thank you properly. Leora shook her head. No need, I am just glad he is safe. She turned to leave, but Alden's voice stopped her. Leora, she looked back. I would like to see you again. To speak with you properly. Her heart jumped, then crashed. Why? Because I find you intriguing. Because you helped a child without hesitation, even when you clearly have more than enough on your own plate. Because there is something about you that I cannot stop thinking about. Leora laughed, a bitter sound. You do not want to get involved with me, my lord. I am a package deal. 4 children, barely making ends meet, living in a cabin that is falling apart. I am not what men like you look for. You are wrong. Alden's voice was firm. You are exactly what I have been looking for. I just did not know it until now. Before Leora could respond, before she could process what he was saying, one of his companions called out that they needed to get the boy to a healer. Alden inclined his head to her, a gesture that felt far too respectful for a woman of her station. Think about it. I will be in Brier Hill territory for another week. I hope to see you again before I leave. Then he was gone, disappearing into the trees with his companions, leaving Leora standing alone in the growing dawn light, her mind spinning. An Alpha King, interested in her, knowing about her children and not running. It had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. Men like him did not pursue women like her. She pushed the encounter from her mind and hurried home. Her children would be awake soon, and Kira had a test at school that Leora had promised to help her study for. Real life was waiting, and she had no time for impossible fantasies. But as she walked, she could not quite suppress the tiny spark of hope that had ignited in her chest. Alden meant what he said. Over the next 3 days, he appeared in places where Leora worked, never intrusively, never demanding her attention, but always there, watching, waiting. He showed up at the bakery where she worked mornings, purchasing bread and engaging her in brief conversations while she kneaded dough. He appeared at the merchant's estate when she was cleaning, asking thoughtful questions about her children, her life, her dreams. Each interaction was brief and respectful. He never pushed, never made her uncomfortable, but his interest was unmistakable, and it terrified Leora as much as it thrilled her. Because she was starting to believe that maybe, impossibly, he meant what he said. The other pack members noticed. How could they not? The Alpha King of the Silver Court, one of the most powerful wolves in all the territories, was pursuing Leora. Plain, overburdened, widowed Leora. The gossip spread like wildfire. Some were excited, seeing it as a chance for Brier Hill Pack to gain favor with the Silver Court. Others were skeptical, questioning what a man of Alden's status could possibly want with a woman who came with so much baggage. And a few were cruel, whispering that she must have done something inappropriate to catch his attention, that she was using her children to manipulate him, that she would embarrass the pack when he inevitably lost interest. Leora tried to ignore it all. She had developed thick skin over the years, learned to tune out the whispers and judgments. But it hurt. It always hurt. On the 4th day, Alden appeared at her cabin. Leora was in the yard, hanging laundry on a line strung between 2 trees, while Finn played in the dirt nearby, and Senna practiced her letters on a piece of slate. When she looked up and saw the Alpha King standing at the edge of her property, her first instinct was panic. Her home was a disaster. The roof sagged. The garden was overgrown with weeds she had not had time to pull. Laundry was everywhere because they did not own enough clothes to skip washing days. She was wearing her oldest dress, the one with patches on the patches, and her hair was falling out of its braid. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman barely keeping her head above water. "My lord," she said, dropping into a hasty curtsy that Finn immediately tried to imitate, nearly face-planting in the dirt. "Please, just Alden." He moved closer, his gaze taking in the cabin, the children, the evidence of her struggle. But there was no judgment in his expression, only interest. "I hope I am not intruding." "I was not expecting company." It was all Leora could think to say. "I apologize for arriving unannounced." Alden crouched down to Finn's level, smiling at the little boy who was staring at him with wide eyes. "Hello. You must be Finn." Finn nodded slowly, then whispered, "You are really big." Alden laughed, a warm sound that made something flutter in Leora's chest. "I get that a lot. Is that your sister?" "That is Senna," Finn said, pointing. "She is learning letters. I already know some." "Do you? That is impressive." Alden glanced up at Leora, amusement dancing in his eyes. "May I?" She had no idea what he was asking permission for, but she nodded anyway. Alden sat down in the dirt, in his fine clothes without hesitation, and began talking to Finn about letters and numbers. Senna, never one to miss out on attention, immediately abandoned her slate and joined them, chattering away about everything and nothing. Leora stood frozen, laundry forgotten, watching the Alpha King sit in the dirt with her youngest children, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Mama, is that man a king?" Senna asked loudly. "He is," Leora confirmed, mortified. "He does not look like a king. Where is his crown?" Alden grinned. "I left it at home. It gets heavy after a while." "Can I be a king?" Finn asked. "You can be anything you want to be," Alden told him seriously. "But being a king is a lot of work. You have to help people and make hard decisions and miss out on fun things sometimes." "That sounds boring," Finn declared. "I want to be a wolf instead." "A much better choice," Alden agreed. The front door of the cabin opened, and Kira stepped out with Torin behind her. They both stopped short when they saw the stranger sitting with their younger siblings. "Kira, Torin," Leora called. "Come here, please." They approached cautiously, and Leora made introductions. Kira studied Alden with the suspicious intensity of a 12-year-old who had learned not to trust easily. Torin just watched quietly, his serious eyes missing nothing. "Your mother has told me about you," Alden said, standing and brushing dirt from his pants without seeming to care about the stains. "Kira, she says you are a gifted student. Torin, I hear you have your father's strategic mind." Kira's expression softened slightly at the mention of her father. "Did you know him?" "I did not have that honor, but from what I have learned, he was a good man and a brave warrior." "He was the best," Kira said quietly. "I am sure he was." Alden's voice was gentle, understanding. "And I am sure he would be very proud of how you have helped your mother care for your siblings." Something in Kira's defensive posture cracked. Leora saw her daughter's eyes fill with tears that she quickly blinked away, saw the weight of too much responsibility pressed down on those young shoulders. "Why are you here?" Torin asked bluntly. "Are you interested in our mother?" "Torin," Leora gasped, mortified. But Alden just smiled. "I am. Is that acceptable to you?" Torin considered this with 9-year-old seriousness. "We are a lot of work. Most men do not want that." "I am not most men, and I do not see work. I see a family." "But we already have a family," Kira said, defensive again. "We do not need anyone else." "Kira," Leora started, but Alden shook his head. "She is right to be protective. It is her job as the eldest." He met Kira's gaze steadily. "I am not here to replace your father, or to take your mother away from you. I am here because I think your mother is remarkable, and I would like the chance to know her better. And if that means knowing all of you as well, then I consider that a privilege, not a burden." Kira studied him for a long moment, then looked at her mother. The question in her eyes was clear. "Is this real? Can we trust this?" Leora had no answer. She was as confused and uncertain as her daughter. "I have a proposition," Alden said, addressing all of them now. "There is a harvest festival in the Silver Court next week. I would like to invite all of you to attend as my guests. You could see the capital, meet some of my people, and we could spend time together in a place where you are not working yourself to exhaustion." He looked at Leora, his expression open and hopeful. No pressure, no expectations, just a chance to know each other better. "What do you say?" Leora wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself and her children from the inevitable disappointment when this powerful, attractive man realized what a mess their lives were and lost interest. But she saw the hope in Senna's eyes, the curiosity in Finn's expression. She saw Kira's cautious interest and Torin's analytical assessment. Her children deserved this, deserved a chance at something good, even if it did not last. "Okay," she heard herself say. "We will come." Alden's smile could have lit the entire forest. "Excellent. I will send a carriage for you. Pack for a week. You will be staying at the palace as my guests." "A palace," Senna squealed. "Mama, we are going to a palace." After Alden left, after the children had run inside to talk excitedly about their upcoming trip, Leora stood in the yard and let the reality of what she had agreed to sink in. She was taking her 4 children to the Silver Court, to stay at the Alpha King's palace, to spend a week pretending that maybe, possibly, this impossible thing could work. And she was terrified. The carriage that arrived a week later was far grander than anything Leora had ever ridden in. It was carved wood and polished metal, pulled by 4 magnificent horses, with cushioned seats and windows that let in the autumn light. Her children were beside themselves with excitement. Even Kira, who had been maintaining her skeptical distance, could not quite hide her awe. Leora had packed their few decent clothes, painfully aware of how shabby everything was. She had spent her last coins on a simple dress for herself, something that was not patched or stained, though it was still nowhere near the quality of what nobles wore. The journey to the Silver Court took 2 days. They stopped at an inn overnight, where Alden had already arranged rooms and meals. The innkeeper treated them with respect, clearly informed that they were the Alpha King's guests. Senna and Finn were delighted by everything: the soft beds, the hot food, the bathhouse where they could soak in water that was actually warm. Torin explored with quiet wonder, taking in every detail. Kira stayed close to Leora, her protective instincts on high alert in this new environment. On the second day, the capital city of the Silver Court came into view. It was built into the mountainside, with stone buildings that seemed to grow from the rock itself. At the highest point stood the palace, a massive structure of grey stone and timber that overlooked the entire valley. "It is beautiful," Leora whispered. "Mama, are we really staying there?" Finn asked, pointing at the palace. "We are," Leora confirmed, still not quite believing it herself. They were greeted at the palace gates by a steward who introduced himself as Henrik. He was an older wolf with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. "Welcome to the Silver Court," he said, bowing to Leora. "The Alpha King is in council meetings but will join you for dinner. I will show you to your rooms and help you get settled." The rooms he led them to were more luxurious than anything Leora had ever seen. There was a large common area with a fireplace and 4 separate bedrooms branching off from it. Each room had a real bed with clean linens, wardrobes, and windows that looked out over the mountains. "This is too much," Leora said quietly to Henrik. "We do not need this much space." "The Alpha King insisted," Henrik replied. "He wanted you and your children to be comfortable. There is a bathhouse down the hall, and dinner will be served in the private dining room at sunset. If you need anything at all, just ring this bell." He showed her a small bell on a table, then bowed again and left them alone. For a moment, Leora and her children just stood there, taking it all in. Then Senna let out a shriek of joy and ran to jump on one of the beds, and the spell was broken. Finn followed immediately, both children laughing and bouncing like it was the greatest adventure of their lives. Kira explored more cautiously, running her hands over the fine furniture, the soft curtains. Torin went to the windows and stood there silently, looking out over the valley with an expression of wonder. "Mama," Kira said softly. "Why is he doing this? It is too much." "I do not know," Leora admitted. "But we are here now. Let us just try to enjoy it." She did not add what she was thinking, that this was probably a fantasy that would end the moment Alden spent real time with them and realized what a chaotic mess 4 children could be. But for now, for this moment, she would let her children have this. Let them feel special and wanted and cared for, even if it was only temporary. Dinner that evening was both wonderful and terrifying. Alden joined them in the private dining room, dressed more casually than Leora had ever seen him, in a simple tunic and pants that somehow made him look even more attractive. He greeted each child by name, asked about their journey, made them feel immediately at ease. The food was incredible. Roasted meat, fresh bread, vegetables glazed with honey, and desserts that made Senna's eyes go wide. The children ate until they could barely move, and even Kira relaxed enough to laugh at one of Alden's stories. After dinner, Alden asked if he could speak with Leora alone. Her heart jumped into her throat, but she nodded and followed him out onto a balcony that overlooked the valley. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was breathtakingly beautiful, and for a moment they just stood there in companionable silence. "Thank you for coming," Alden said finally. "I know it was not an easy decision. My children are happy, that makes it worth it. And you? Are you happy?" Leora looked at him, this impossibly attractive, powerful man who had turned her entire world upside down in a matter of days. "I am confused. I do not understand what you want from me. I want to know you. I want to spend time with you and your children. I want to see if this feeling I have, this pull towards you, is as real as I think it is. And if it is not?" Leora forced herself to ask. "If you spend time with us and realize that 4 children is actually too much, that the reality does not match whatever fantasy you have built in your head, that will not happen. You cannot know that. I can." Alden stepped closer, close enough that Leora could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Leora, I have been alone for 10 years. I have been looking for my mate, for the woman who would complete me, and I have found no one. Every female wolf my council has paraded before me left me feeling nothing, empty, until I saw you scrubbing that floor." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I felt it then, that pull, that recognition. And every time I have seen you since, it has only gotten stronger. You are my mate. I know it in my bones." Leora's breath caught. Mate bonds were sacred, undeniable. If what he said was true, if she was truly his mate, then this was not some passing fancy. It was destiny. "But the children," she whispered, "are part of you, part of the package, as you said. And I do not see them as a burden or an obstacle. I see them as a gift, as the family I have always wanted but never thought I would have. You could have any woman in the realm, someone without complications, someone who could give you your own children. I do not want any woman. I want you." Alden's voice was fierce. "And those 4 remarkable children are more than I ever hoped for. I do not need my own blood children, Leora. I need a family, and you are offering me one." Tears spilled down Leora's cheeks before she could stop them. All the years of rejection, of being told she was too much, of believing that she would spend her life alone. It all came crashing down in the face of this man's certainty. "I am scared," she admitted. "I am scared of believing you. of letting my children believe you, of what happens if you change your mind. I will not change my mind. Alden wiped her tears with gentle fingers. But I understand your fear. You have been hurt, rejected. You have learned not to trust. So I'm asking for time. Give me this week. Let me show your children that I mean what I say. And at the end of it, if you still do not believe me, I will let you go. No pressure. No obligations. Leora looked into his ice-blue eyes and saw nothing but sincerity, nothing but hope and determination, and something that looked a lot like love. Okay, she whispered. 1 week. Alden smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. 1 week, that is all I need. The week that followed was unlike anything Leora had ever experienced. Alden spent every moment he could with them. He showed the children the palace, the training grounds, the libraries. He introduced them to his people, treating them not as the widow's burdens, but as honored guests. He played with Finn and Senna, patiently teaching them games and telling them stories. He talked with Torin about strategy and history, engaging the serious boy's brilliant mind. He trained with Kira, recognizing her need to be strong and capable, treating her like the warrior she was becoming. And with Leora, he was patient and attentive. He asked about her life, her dreams, her fears. He listened when she talked about Marcus, about the grief that still sometimes overwhelmed her. He never tried to push her faster than she was ready to go, never made her feel pressured or rushed. The palace staff accepted them without question, following their king's lead. The children were given access to tutors, to the training grounds, to everything the palace had to offer. They were treated as if they belonged there. By the 3rd day, even Kira had started to relax. She still watched Alden carefully, still protected her mother and siblings, but her suspicion had given way to cautious trust. On the 4th day, Alden took them all to a lake in the mountains, where they spent the afternoon swimming and playing. Watching him wrestle with Finn in the shallows, watching him patiently help Senna find the best skipping stones, watching him talk seriously with Torin and Kira, Leora felt something shift inside her. This was real. He was not going to leave. He genuinely wanted this. That night, after the children were asleep, Alden and Leora walked through the palace gardens under the stars. They are wonderful, Alden said, all 4 of them. Kira's strength, Torin's intelligence, Senna's joy, Finn's enthusiasm. You have raised them well. I did the best I could, Leora said, but it has been hard, so hard. You do not have to do it alone anymore. Alden stopped walking and turned to face her. I know it has only been a week. I know you need more time to trust this, to trust me. But Leora, I want this. I want you. I want them. I want us to be a family. Your council will object. 4 children who are not your blood. My council serves me, not the other way around. And any wolf who has a problem with my choice of mate can take it up with me directly. Leora laughed, despite herself. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, not easy, but simple. He took her hands in his. The question is, what do you want? Can you see yourself here? Can you see us building a life together? Leora looked around at the beautiful gardens, at the palace that could be her home, at the man who had somehow made her believe in impossible things. Yes, she whispered, I can. Alden pulled her close, holding her like she was something precious, something worth protecting. Then that is what we will do. We will take it slow. We will give your children time to adjust. We will give you time to trust. But Leora, I promise you this. I will never make you regret choosing me. I will never make your children feel like they are unwanted. This is forever. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And Leora let herself believe. Let herself hope. Let herself imagine a future where she was not alone. Where her children had a father who wanted them. Where love was not limited by logistics or complicated by circumstance. It felt like coming home. The last 3 days of the week passed in a blur of happiness. Alden formally introduced Leora and her children to his council, making it clear that they were under his protection and would be staying at the Silver Court. There were some raised eyebrows, some whispered concerns about bloodlines and proper succession, but no one dared challenge their king directly. The children thrived. Senna made friends with the kitchen staff's children. Finn spent hours in the stables, learning about the horses. Torin discovered the palace library and looked like he had found heaven. Kira started training with Alden's elite guard and had never been happier. And Leora began to see what her life could be. Not scraping by, not working herself to exhaustion, but actually living. Having time to spend with her children, having someone to share the burden of decisions and worries, having a partner, having love. On the final evening of their planned week, Alden organized a small gathering. It was meant to be a celebration, a way of formally welcoming Leora and her children to the Silver Court. The great hall was decorated with autumn flowers and candles. The tables were laden with food. Members of Alden's inner circle were there, along with representatives from various packs who wanted to meet the woman who had captured their king's heart. Leora wore a dress that Alden had commissioned for her. Simple but elegant, in a deep blue that made her eyes bright. Her children were dressed in new clothes as well, looking happy and healthy and utterly at home. The evening was going beautifully. Alden stayed close to her side, introducing her to various wolves, making sure she never felt overwhelmed. The children played with other young wolves, supervised, but free. Leora was starting to think that maybe, impossibly, this could actually work. And then the doors to the great hall burst open. A messenger stumbled in, out of breath and wild-eyed. "My lord, forgive the intrusion, but there is urgent news from Brier Hill Pack." Alden was on his feet immediately. "What news?" "The pack has been attacked. Rogues, a large force of them. They are demanding tribute and threatening to raise the territory if their demands are not met." Leora's blood went cold. Brier Hill, her home. The pack that had sheltered her and her children, even when they had little to offer in return. "When did this happen?" Alden demanded. "Today, my lord. The attack began this morning. Our scouts only just received word." Alden turned to his advisors, already strategizing. "Gather the guard. We ride at first light with a full force." "No." The word came from Leora before she could stop it. Everyone turned to look at her. "No?" Alden's expression was concerned, but not angry. "We ride now. Tonight." Leora's voice was steady, despite the fear coursing through her. "Those are my people, my neighbors, my friends. If we wait until morning, more could die." "Leora, it is dark. The terrain is dangerous." "I know the terrain. I have lived there my entire life." She met his eyes, pleading. "Please, I know you need to prepare, to organize. But we cannot wait. Not when lives are at stake." Alden studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "We ride in 1 hour. Henrik, gather the fastest riders. We will take a strike force ahead of the main army." He turned to one of his female advisors, a wolf named Silva. "Take Leora's children to the secure wing. Guard them with your life." "No." Kira had appeared at Leora's side, her young face determined. "I am coming with you." "Kira," Leora started, "I can fight. You know I can. And Brier Hill is my home too. I will not hide while people I know are in danger." "She is right." Torin stepped forward as well. "We may be young, but we are not helpless. Let us help." Leora looked at her children, her fierce, brave, remarkable children, and felt pride swell in her chest, even as fear gripped her heart. Alden crouched down to their level. "If you come, you follow orders without question. You stay behind the warriors. You do not take unnecessary risks. Understood?" They nodded solemnly. "Then gear up. We leave in 1 hour." The next hour was a whirlwind of preparation. Armor was fitted. Weapons were distributed. Horses were saddled. Senna and Finn, too young to fight, were taken to safety by Silva, who promised to guard them as if they were her own. Leora was given light armor and a bow. She was a decent shot, good enough to defend herself if needed. Kira and Torin were fitted with armor sized for their frames and given weapons they had trained with. As they mounted up in the courtyard, as Alden's strike force assembled around them, Leora felt the weight of what they were riding toward. Rogues. A large force of them, vicious and organized enough to attack an entire pack. The kind of wolves who showed no mercy, who killed without hesitation. She was taking her children into battle. She was risking everything she had fought so hard to protect. But she could not turn away. Not from people who needed help. Not when she had the power to do something. Alden rode up beside her, magnificent in his armor, every inch the warrior king. "Are you sure about this?" "No," Leora admitted, "but I am doing it anyway." He smiled, fierce and proud. "That is my mate." They rode out into the night, toward danger and uncertainty, toward a battle that would test everything they had built over the past week. And as the palace disappeared behind them, as the dark forest closed in around them, Leora made herself a promise. She would protect Brier Hill, she would protect her children, and she would come back to the life that Alden had offered her. Because for the first time in years, she had something worth fighting for beyond just survival. She had hope, she had love, she had a future, and she was not going to let rogues take it away. What happens when they reach Brier Hill? Will Leora and her children survive the battle? Can Alden prove that his love is strong enough to withstand real danger? And what threat awaits them in the darkness? Do you want part 2? Drop a comment below and let me know. If you want to see how this story ends, how Leora and Alden face the rogues together, and whether their new family survives its first real test, tell me in the comments. Also, hit that subscribe button to never miss a story. And share this with anyone who believes in second chances and chosen families. Part 2 is coming if you want it, so make some noise in the comments.